righty.
Welcome. Today, as we read the Gospel of John, we invite you to reflect and to pray on what Jesus is saying to us. After Jesus had revealed himself to his disciples and eaten breakfast with them, he said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" Simon Peter answered him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my lambs." He then said to Simon Peter a second time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Simon Peter answered him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." He said to him, "Tend my sheep." He sought him a third time and said, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was distressed that he had said to him a third time, "Do you love me?" And he said to Jesus, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my sheep. Amen, I say to you, when you were younger, you used to dress yourselves and go where you wanted. But when you grow old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will dress you and lead you to where you do not want to go." He said this, signifying by what kind of death he would glorify God. And then when he said this, he said to them, "Follow me." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
I must say that in reading this Gospel, I have total sympathy with Peter. The third time, Jesus says, "Do you love me?" And Peter's exasperated and said, "You know I do." It's the third time. How many times are you going to ask the same question? And I couldn't help but think back to my own growing up, indeed, how parents, I guess moms especially, tend to repeat things like, "Did you make your bed? Did you take out the garbage? Did you do this? Did you do your homework?" And it was about the 17th time, and I can hear myself saying, "Yes, how many times are you going to ask? Yes." And then, of course, the next one, "Well, if you did it, I wouldn't have to keep asking you." I remember I was a pastor and I was in my 50s, and I had never worn a hat since I was a little kid. And my mother always was after me about that. And this particular time I had gotten a cold, a head cold, and I called her to say hi, and I was aware of what was going to happen. As soon as I got on the phone, she said, "Do you have a cold?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Well, because if you would wear a hat, you wouldn't get the cold." And I was in my 50s. And I laughed because it was a comforting kind of pain in the neck. Continue to ask me because you do love me and you do care. And I laughed this time because I hope I got a little more mature. I didn't put a hat on, but I was a little more mature. I think that's what prayer is in a way. Jesus, in a different kind of context, saying to us over and over again in prayer, "Do you love me?" Because prayer primarily is listening to God and what he's saying to me at a given time, every day, and it's over and over again. It seems like it's sometimes boring. Sometimes I go through a prayer and I feel empty. Sometimes I say, I can't think of anything creative to say, or can't think of a way to say it that's creative. And then I forget. I'm supposed to be listening. What's more important is Jesus continually saying to me, "Do you love me?" And then my answer depends on the day. It may be, of course, and then I'm on to my own agenda. Or it may be not so much. You see, the day is new. It's not yesterday. That's gone. It's not tomorrow. It's not here yet. But are you going to love me today? Do you love me right now? Do you see me in your day, in yourself? Can you anticipate seeing me in those with whom you're coming into contact? How do I feed? How do I tend the sheep that the Lord sends my way? Well, that's something I have to work on a little bit. But it is today. It's not anything in the future. Am I going to be compassionate? Am I going to try to be patient? Am I going to reach out to someone that I've neglected or ignored? Am I going to send a reminder, maybe a birthday greeting to someone whose birthday I remember is today? What difference would that make? I don't know. But my motivation is not so much what I'm doing or what the other person needs, but I'm trying to respond to what Jesus is saying to me. Do you love me? Do you believe I'm there wherever you are this day? Whatever the circumstances, whoever the people may be, are you inclusive? Are you compassionate? Are you open to people who perhaps otherwise you would ignore? I find myself becoming impatient with people who should know better, who should be wearing a hat, I guess, as my mother would say. When am I going to learn? When are they going to learn? And there I am, slipping into God's role, but not like God. I'm not doing it lovingly. I'm doing it with a sense of control or impatience or judgment. Do I love God? Yes. Do I let it touch my heart? And really, do I listen to my response? My response is, I love you. You know that, Lord. But not every day do I do it the way I should. And I know that too. That's why I think prayer can be uncomfortable. It's not that it's so repetitious, although it can be that. It's not that I get frustrated that it's the same thing over and over. But if I take time and reflect, I become extremely uncomfortable that my answer is not a deep answer. It's on the surface. Yes, Lord, I love you, but I do nothing. I do nothing to change. I do nothing to make myself uncomfortable. I do nothing to reach out and be inclusive to those who are marginalized. I find myself judging, labeling, all of those things that are part of who I am and who the Lord sees and loves because he sees himself in the middle of it. Can I do that? Can I listen? So Simon, like you and me, hears it probably now. Do you love me? That's the Lord's response in whatever words he uses today in your prayer. Am I listening? Do I let it touch my heart? Do I respond then and say, I love you, Lord, and I'll show it by trying to live what you ask me to do. I'll try to feed, I'll try to tend, I'll try to be present to all those who come into my contact today because I believe you're there and that you want me to witness to your love and your compassion. Continue to have a safe day, continue to pray for one another, and be safe. God bless.